Hi there. This is Susan Kegley coming to you from Bees and Blooms Farm in Northern California, Santa Rosa. And here we are in the dead of winter, which in California means a lot of rain. So we've just had about 5 inches of rain in the last 5 or 6 days. 2.5 inches of it came yesterday. So we're going to talk today about drainage. Very important. Here we are at the entrance to the Lavender Labyrinth. And when we built the labyrinth, we built it across a hillside with circular mounds to keep the lavender raised up out of the clay. Now, what do you know about building across a hillside, a raised berm across a hillside? Well, we learned. Let's look. Of course, as everyone knows, water flows downhill unless obstructed by some other structure, like a raised bed. So once we realized that this was going to be an issue, we started putting in drainage pipes across the labyrinth circles at selected locations. And that seems to work pretty well. You can see the mounds, and they're pretty high here in the labyrinth. They're about almost a foot high off ground level. And that gives a chance for the lavender plants to get their feet out of the muck. So let's take a look. See how nice and airy that soil is? And there's pretty serious clay all around it, but we did amend the soil a tiny bit with compost and some sandier soil when we were first planting. Let's go look at the lavender over in the north block. Okay, first, here it is at ground level. Soggy. Lavender roots hate that. So in our mounded area, where a gopher has gotten one of the lavenders, you can see that the dirt is still loose and has air pockets. And I'm sure if we go down deep enough, we'll get to some really soggy stuff. But I've gone about 6 inches and it still looks pretty good. Okay, so this lavender at least has a part of its feet dry. Let's head back to the labyrinth and see where the water's going. So we built a French drain that runs all down the side of this pathway. And the French drain opening is right here. We see this water going underground, and it goes all the way down. Down, down, down to here, where we've built a French drain that goes across this roadway. And it collects water right here, sends it down through our open ditch, our V-ditch. Now, we worked pretty hard to direct most of the runoff from the property to a swale. This looks like a pond, and it dries out in the summer, but it's officially called a swale, which is a collection place for your runoff. Now, the swale can do several things. One is that it will collect any sediment that comes down with the water and give it a chance to settle out so it doesn't go into the local waterways. This keeps your soil on your property and keeps the waterways around your property clean. Now, ideally, you wouldn't have very much sediment coming off because you would have seeded in the fall with erosion-controlled grasses, at least here in California. The other thing a swale can do is to recharge the aquifer. So this water sits in the swale for most of the winter, and it can percolate down through the soil, the topsoil, into the groundwater. The groundwater here is, at least at this time of year, is right at the surface. But in the summer when it's dry, the water table is about 8 feet down. So we're helping recharge our aquifer, which looks fully recharged right now, by collecting the water that runs off from the property and letting it sink in. One advantage of this rain in the Santa Rosa plain clay is that it fills up all the gopher tunnels. And if you can see here, you see that This gopher hole is pretty full, and the soil is saturated all over the property. So the gophers don't have very many places to go, and many of them do not make it through the winter. So drainage is something that you need to keep an eye on for a while until you get your property all set up. And even then, there'll be times when it's just soggy. And that's okay, it'll dry out eventually. Now let's go visit the ducks. Ducks are very happy with this weather. So happy. The worms come to the surface, the slugs come out, and they are eating all day long. Okay, duckies, have a good day. Thank you for joining me at Bees and Blooms.